I would feel like it was very sort of robotic without being able to be natural and be myself. I didn't breathe enough to let anybody else jump in. But then when I went, I actually loved it. I really enjoyed it, as opposed to thinking of all the things that are going to go wrong. I'm actually thinking about all the things that could go right and what could actually come from it in the future.
Welcome back to another client interview. Today, I'm very honoured again to have Sarah Barnes. Before we jump into things, Sarah, would you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Ed. So I'm Sarah Barnes and I head up the residential conveyancing department at Napton Solicitors. And obviously we deal with residential conveyancing, which is sales, purchases, remortgages on behalf of clients. And they can be clients buying, selling, investor clients, company clients. And yeah, so that's what I do.
Sarah, tell me, if we were to go 6 or 12 months back, what were your biggest challenges around public speaking?
I think my challenges were around confidence, really, just not having the confidence to speak in front of a large group of people, feeling that I had quite a lot to say, but didn't particularly know how to articulate it in a really clear and concise and confident manner, really, and to have that gravitas that comes with being a confident public speaker. And I think as well, obviously, the pressure now is that we are in a position where we need to do a bit more in terms of podcasts and online content. And that scared me even more than in person public speaking, really, because I thought to myself, I've really got to up my game here. And that terrified me.
When you say lack of confidence, then, is this just the typical feeling of nerves that happens when we're faced with an audience, or was there anything
Mm.
else besides that?
No, it was all of those things, really. It was, and what people thought, people's judgments, those types of things as well. That awful anxiety feeling and almost losing your thread of what you want to say and how you want to say it, and the pressure. If someone asks you something and you don't know the answer, you worry about that thought, oh gosh, what if someone asks me something in the middle of everything and I just don't know what to say? Or so I think it's all those fears that of things that probably won't happen, actually, that you build and build and build.
Obviously you still had to go and speak. You're in a position where you've got a team,
Yeah.
you've got to be visible internally. So were you just kind of getting through it and trying to battle the nerves?
I was getting used to doing the public speaking internally with work because they were the same people. So I kind of knew what to expect and I could sort of drive the narrative. And I was also speaking as well, particularly to my department, to a bunch of people who also don't like public speaking, putting themselves out there generally.
Right.
So that kind of gave me a bit more confidence internally that I could, like you say, get through it
Yeah.
and make it work. I suppose I'd get more nervous if they were my peers. So if they were fellow partners or board members and it was quite a serious presentation, I would really worry about that. And I'd get my slides ready and really rely on the slides. I would feel like it was very sort of robotic without being able to be natural and be myself.
If I'd have been in the room watching Sarah present a year or so ago, I'd have
Yeah,
seen you at the front with very detailed slides. Would there have been body language tells or vocal tells?
I talk very quickly normally. So I think you would have seen a very, very quick speech and a bit kind of all over the place, just because I'm trying to fill in any gaps, any quiet moments, because that made me feel uncomfortable. I didn't breathe enough to let anybody else jump in. It was almost like I've got what I need to say. I've got my
Yeah.
list of things I need to get through. I'm going to get through them really quickly. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
give anyone the opportunity to jump in.
The adrenaline makes you speed up naturally. But
Yeah.
then when you're afraid of those silences and afraid of anyone jumping in and asking a question that might derail you, there is just
Mhm.
this kind of steam train approach of I'm going to get through it as quick as I
That's
can
it.
and get to the end. And of course, it doesn't serve anyone, does it? It just makes it
No.
even more difficult for you. Were you avoiding any opportunities because of this as well? Obviously, there were some things you had to do. Were there other
Yeah.
things that you could have done that you were dodging?
It could be anything really, whether it's from a business perspective or a charity perspective or just getting involved in local communities and, could you introduce yourself? I would almost back away from that and think, oh, no, I'm too busy, I've got other things to do. But I think a lot of this stuff as well, probably I rejected ideas probably subconsciously as well. I probably just didn't put myself out there as being someone who would want to do those type of things. So then you don't get asked because you're not putting yourself out there and people are getting the vibe that you're not interested in those types of things.
Mm,
And I think you
yeah.
made the point recently where when you talked about LinkedIn, you asked the question, does anyone put speaker in your profile? And
Yes.
gosh, no, I wouldn't have even thought of that.
It's a
Yeah.
really interesting point that, Sarah, that it's not just even that you're consciously avoiding things. Sometimes
Yeah,
you're unconsciously doing it because you're telling yourself, you're identifying as, I am not someone who speaks. I'm not a confident
definitely.
person. I would never do that. And like you say, that vibe that you put out, even if you're not saying it verbally, people pick up on it and then don't even
Yeah,
ask you to do those things. Yeah.
no,
So
definitely.
what was it that prompted you then to reach out and say, right, I'm gonna get a bit of help with this and turn things around?
Our marketing team were suggesting that we do certain podcasts and making that available on Instagram and Facebook and on the website. I thought to myself, well, as head of department, I really need to take the lead because I need to encourage others to get involved. I can't exactly ask for volunteers if I'm not going to do it myself. So I thought I've really got to should be an example really to the team
Yeah.
and show my vulnerabilities as well and just say to the team, look, I don't really relish the idea of this either. I'll do it, but come on, everybody, would you like to join in? And I
Yeah.
actually have had some traction with that as well. So there's a few people who have got involved in things. Yeah, so I think the pressure probably internally from a marketing team pushed me in that direction.
Mm,
And I think also that genuine sense of this is a skill set that's missing for me, really. And it's
right.
something that I need to be brave. I need to get this sorted. And I felt there wasn't particularly any training offered internally, which is a bit of a shame because I think our firm would really benefit from that. So that's why I had to look external to think, actually, I need to find someone who specializes in this. When you struggle as well with public speaking and you have done for a while, I think it's something that's in the back of people's minds a lot because they know
Mm.
it's going to come up at some point. There's going to be something at some
Yes, you
point.
carry it around
It
with you,
niggles
don't you?
away. It
The
niggles
fear is
away.
always in the back of your mind. And that's a big energy drainer as well, I think, because that unfinished business that we are carrying around with us, those fears in the background. What have you enjoyed most about our training program?
Joe, which surprised me, but I actually have enjoyed the in-person
Mm,
workshops. I didn't know whether I would enjoy them as such because I was worried about them because they are in person with a group of strangers. And I mean, I know we meet people online, and then you recognize certain people when you go
yeah.
to the workshops and say, oh, I've been on online with them. But that was quite nerve-wracking, the thought of going to the workshop. But then when I went, I actually loved it. I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed sort of meeting the people and doing things in person and talking to other people about their challenges as well and understanding where they were coming from and what they did, the goals that they had and the opportunities that they have coming up as well was really interesting. So I'd honestly say that those workshops were brilliant. I think as well, sometimes when you're in that position, and you're talking about certain sort of structures and the way we need to do things potentially and what we need to be thinking about, it kind of sinks in
Mm,
when you're in an in-person situation
yeah.
more than the online's great as well because that's really supplementary. But I think it really does sink in when you're in person, actually doing it
Yeah.
in front of people. I think it makes a massive difference. So I'd say, surprisingly, I enjoyed the workshops more than anything else. I was not going to
Good.
expect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts as well. I love getting everyone together in the same room and everyone kind of sharing in that challenge. If we go back from kind of where you were that year or so ago to now, what
Yeah.
has been the biggest improvement that you've seen in your speaking skills?
Slowing things down, making more eye contact with people, being aware of my body language as well,
Mm,
because I think my body language is actually okay, but then actually understanding how impactful the body language can be
yeah.
and how important it is, making that a conscious decision to be a bit more interested in terms of body language.
It's one thing to notice it in other people, but when
Mm,
you're on stage, all of those things go completely out the window, and it's just like you're in this whirlwind of
yeah,
trying to get through it, and you don't realize what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. So this is why
no,
the training is so important. One more question then, Sarah. So how do you feel now about public speaking? If you were given an opportunity, those things that used to come up that you would either avoid or you wouldn't
yeah.
enjoy, how has that feeling changed?
I'll still say I'm nervous, but I think it's a healthy nervousness,
Mm.
not a this is going to be a disaster. I'm terrified nervousness. So I feel like the confidence has grown to a nice nervousness, if I can put it that way, and something that I feel I can do. It's not going to terrify me. I feel no, I can do this, and I can see it in a positive way, as opposed to thinking of all the things that are going to go wrong. I'm actually thinking about all the things that could go right and what could actually come from it in the future.
It becomes a virtuous cycle rather than a vicious cycle, where every time you
Exactly,
do
go
something,
backwards.
you
Yeah.
feel a little bit more confident, and then you take that into the next opportunity and it builds. What would your final message be to anyone else who is in a similar position to you, who has doubted themselves and they're kind of frustrated? What would your advice be?
And my advice would be just to go for it, just do it, just actually just go for it. We all in our own minds think that things are going to be harder or worse than they actually work out. You know, you find that a lot of people struggle with public speaking.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
an awful lot of people who are in very senior positions, you know, and
Yeah.
you can see them making those little mistakes that could just so easily be tweaked and changed and wouldn't
Mhm.
take too much effort, but would make them feel loads better and make the presentation look so much better as well.
Sometimes the more senior people get, the more they feel the weight of those expectations. And
Yeah,
if they haven't had the training, I feel like it gets harder for them, not easier in some ways.
definitely.
Final thing, then, before we wrap up, you
Yeah,
have been taking not just baby steps, but some big steps, some giant leaps for mankind into
yeah.
your public speaking fears. Would you like to do a little shout out of where people can follow you if they're interested in, what you do as a service? And maybe you mentioned about these podcasts that are coming up and where people might find those as well.
Yeah, so I'm working, obviously, I'm Sarah Barnes and I work at Napton Solicitors. So you can find me on the website. And yes, I do have a podcast coming up with Phil Spencer from Location, which is a shock to me as well. But I'm sure it'll be enjoyable for everybody.
If you're interested in conveyancing or you're buying a
Yeah.
property, go and follow Sarah on LinkedIn and look out for these podcasts that you're doing soon. What a great testament, mate, to everything you've just said. And not only are you talking the talk, but you're walking that walk as well. So here's to smashing those podcasts in next month.
Thank you for your support, Ed, as well. Thank you.
Oh, pleasure. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for doing this. I'll speak to you again soon.